Star Wars Rebels Season 3, Episode 17, Through Imperial Eyes. Really loved this episode. It was a good Kallus episode, and I loved the way it played out, and I was like, man, this actually seems to be working. I couldn't freaking believe it. Honestly, the whole episode, things are playing out. No one gets to see Ezra through like the whole episode. That was the whole point, is like, Ezra and the Rebels, obviously the main character of Rebels, they are so recognizable that if somebody sees them, they'll probably be like, hey, these are the specific rebels we've been searching for a long time. And unfortunately, everything works out. Kallus is swapping codes and everything like that. He's playing, the one guy who, he sets up throughout the entire episode. He's switching codes with him. He's saying like, hey, they believe that she's the spy, so check on her. All this stuff plays out perfectly. And then it all comes together at the end. No matter what freaking happens, Thrawn is going to be like the smartest guy ever. And it was so freaking cool where he picked all this stuff up, and it was actually, because I noticed that early on in the episode they did it where Ezra's helmet was left behind. I was like, that's interesting. I mean, it's a helmet, no big deal. Like, what, it was like half a second, but just visually speaking, especially with it being a 3D series, I was like, why would they spend time focusing on that for like a second, or a second and a half worth of the episode? I was like, that's really weird. They could do anything to pad out the time that would have been easier animation-wise. And it was like, oh, now I get why that makes sense, because that was meant to be like, hey, his helmet isn't just some random helmet, which is what I thought it was, because it's Star Wars. All the armor, you never know what's custom and what's not. It's Star Wars. Things, especially Mandalorians, they were like 100 billion different colors. You never know what's just armor or what's been spray painted by like Sabine. And I don't recall ever seeing that suit before, so it wasn't something I was familiar with. Like, oh, I remember he wore that costume before. Totally possible, and I just forgot, but it seemed brand new to me. So when they had that come back at the end, he was like, what does this look like? He's like, it's, a helmet or whatever, and he says, like, Thrawn's like, it's this type of helmet, but it's custom painted, and it's custom painted by a particularly familiar artist. And of course he looks at the big wall that he had taken from somewhere, probably Lothal, and he's like, it's by Sabine Wren, which means that this had to have been worn by Ezra Bridger. And that's when it all comes together. And as soon as he said that, I was like, oh crap. Because of course the other guy's like, well, if that were the case, then of course Agent Kallus, of all characters, would know exactly who that is when he saw him. Why didn't he report it? And that's where it comes in, and Admiral Thrawn says it's because he is fulcrum. And I was so surprised by that. And he should have got out. I mean, I guess that was pretty much it. Like, it seemed like everything worked out perfectly. Kallus's plan seemed to all fall into place. And that's why he stayed behind. He's like, I can do better here. And it just seemed to work perfectly. I was like, wow, that was surprisingly good. Like, they got one over on Grand Admiral Thrawn, which really shocked me. And honestly, I thought the big screw up was going to be that they erased the planet and replaced it with something else. Like, that was a huge difference. It wasn't like it moved a little bit, and it couldn't, because that would mean the planets were like right next to each other. But when that switched, I was like, oh man, he's going to notice that just because it's his character. I wouldn't be surprised if they, just pulled it out of nowhere. Like, yep, he actually has photographic memory, and he just sees it and is like, that's off. Like, that's not the planet that was there. But that seemed to be fine. And at first I wasn't sure, because I didn't know if he knew who the traitor was. So I was like, maybe he's keeping that hidden even from the other guy that he brought in. And I was like, that makes sense. That's really smart if he's going to be hiding that. But knowing that he realized it was Kallus by the end of this episode, I'm assuming he really didn't realize that they actually swapped out one of the planets. So that was very good. I was happy to hear that. It was kind of good news, bad news, because I was like, alright, he officially didn't notice that, because otherwise he would have just been like, this planet's off, because he knew that it was Kallus at that point. So, kind of a good news, bad news thing. And I don't know where they're headed. I mean, considering he knows it's Kallus, it makes me wonder if Kallus is even going to survive the end of the season, if I'm being 100% honest, because now they're going to start utilizing him to get more information on, the rebels and what they're going to be doing, and outposts that they're going to be attacking based off of transmissions and stuff like that. So I don't know where it's headed, but this is a really good episode to explore it. And oddly enough, I feel like there's not a lot of specific episode points to really talk about. There's definitely some cool moments, especially the ending when they're in the office, and it was really intense and things were just going back and forth. And that's when I thought Ezra was going to get busted. and Kallus is able to send in the droids on Thrawn, which is a really cool segment where he like actually beats him up, and it got pretty intense after he destroyed the first one. And he just picks up the gun and turns around. It was like a mafia movie or something, because he was just walking towards it slowly, just blasting it. And I was like, oh man, that got a little intense, even though it was just droids. But it was really good. We also got to see AP5 in this episode, so that was cool. Chopper, of course, was there. I feel like AP5 actually said more than Chopper in this episode, so that really surprised me. But it was pretty good. You know, it was another episode. We've had this quite a bit lately where it'll be like a couple of characters per episode. We haven't had like the full team go out in quite a while. And this one, it was just Ezra and Chopper and, you know, AP5 really, if you count like the actual team, and, you know, Kallus is the main character. But it was pretty cool. And I'm liking what they're doing with that, because we get to see the characters where they don't have all the resources that they normally do. And Ezra was by himself. We actually didn't see a lot of like Jedi action from him. Not too much, really. So it was interesting the way it played out. We got to see him use like a Jedi mind trick, but not too much with his lightsaber, not too much using the Force, because it was a very spy-oriented episode. And I actually like that a lot. I was like, that's cool to see him in these very serious situations, but he can't go kind of all out because he wasn't captured except for like the very beginning of the episode, and that was all a part of the plan. And after that, it was an entire sneak mission, so he couldn't really go around like, you know, blasting people with the Force and using his lightsaber the whole time. So I thought it was kind of cool. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen a lightsaber. That's just, it's Star Wars, so you always want to see a lightsaber. But I love the way they did it. I was like, it's entertaining to watch him go through this mission where they have to sneak. They have to get these codes up to Kanan and the clone trooper. I totally can't think of his name right now, which is crazy. But they had to get the codes to them so they could actually land on the ship and they all escape. So that was pretty cool. And that was like their minor appearance, but like I hardly count them as like an actual part of the episode, because they were on the ship and maybe they showed up. I think they were on the ship like for 3 separate scenes, I believe. But that was it. They were on the ship the whole time. And that was it. Like, they didn't even actually help in the action. Like, Ezra actually got up again during the fight. Like, he was the one getting up. Kallus was the one, you know, to shoot somebody else, or the other agent that he tricked was the one to shoot the commander. So they didn't even really fight that much. They picked up, you know, they picked up Ezra, they picked up AP5, they picked up Chopper. And it was like, all right, well, we're out. And you know, that was it. They were out of the episode. But still really well done. I love the spy element of this episode. And watching Kallus as a character, it's so weird to think of him as this new character almost, because of who he was, you know, in the beginning of the series. Like, his connection with Zeb, which is insanely intense, and then the episode where they're trapped together and the odd sense of honor that ends up forming between them, and how he ends up paying that back. Zeb actually saving his life, how he pays that back to Sabine and Ezra in a former episode. Like, you know, I owed him one, so here you guys go. Which I still wonder now if he was fulcrum even back then, if that's why that happened. Like, they never actually like discussed that. They haven't brought that up just yet. So I wonder if that was when he was officially fulcrum, or if that was just like a cool moment because he was actually being really honorable because Zeb saved his life and he didn't let the rebels know that he was there. So either way, it was still a cool scene. But he's changed so much as a character, and now he's somehow officially one of the good guys, and it's crazy to root for this character who early on in this series I was like, man, I would not mind if he just got destroyed by Zeb in an episode. But you know, he was constantly there as a rival character, always, you know, if he wasn't on a personal level with Zeb, he was still always like the main guy coming after them in most of the episodes for the first season. And, you know, he's continued to survive beyond, you know, the Inquisitors in the first season, the Inquisitors in the second season, Vader for his short appearance, and now he's possibly in his final appearance. You know, we'll find out exactly what happens, but it was a really good episode, and oddly, I find myself worried for Agent Kallus. I never would have thought that with this series, but really, really cool. Also, and this just came to mind, they definitely had the, and I knew she was going to come back somehow, and I mentioned this before, in the mid-season premiere, the commander on the ship, where she thought she was going to get the rebels, and Hera was like, oh, she's, their commander's showing her inexperience, and they, like, blew through the Star Destroyer. She was in this episode, and I think it was her and then 2 other people. I forgot what they actually called them. They were like op commanders or something really special. And I was like, that's very interesting. I knew she would show up, and it was still for half a second, but I was like, they chose to use that character model again to bring that character back. And I was like, I knew she'd come back because she had speaking lines, and there's a lot of focus on her and how they even referenced the fact that she was a new commander because she didn't know the weaknesses of her own ship. And it was cool to see her in there. I was like, hey, that's her. So, love that. Still half a second, like I said, it wasn't as big as I thought, but she showed up again, and that interested me. I was like, I was right. They threw her in there for half a second, so maybe we'll actually get to learn about her in her third appearance. She'll actually be like, a big proponent like she was in the mid-season premiere. But it was cool to see her come back because I was like, there's no way that character doesn't come back. She's not just a random commander. She's the commander that almost caught the rebels and is brand new, which they reference from Harris dialogue. So thought that was really awesome. But episode in general, freaking amazing. Not sure how many episodes we have left. I actually have to look it up to see how close we are to the season finale, but really looking forward to that. I actually plan on doing a reaction for the finale this season, just like I did for last season as well. So really looking forward to that. I can't wait to see it. I think there was a promo, I think it was during this episode actually, when they showed the promo where the end of it is Obi-Wan and Darth Maul, and he's like, spinning the lightsaber around as they're at the campfire, and I was just like, man, I cannot wait to see this episode. So really looking forward to that. But of course, I love this one. It's Star Wars. It's gonna be freaking great. But it was a really cool episode where it was all within, the Empire. There wasn't even a planet in this episode. Like, they were visual planets, but man, I can't even think of another episode where they weren't actually on a planet. The whole episode was on these two ships. So this may actually be the first time. Like, I legitimately can't think of a single episode where they were not on some planet, even if it was for 5 minutes of the episode. They'd say Lothal a million times in this one, but they're never on it. So it was very interesting. That didn't occur to me until just now, but love the episode, of course. Would love to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And of course, Agent Kallus has been busted as Fulcrum, but he doesn't know that. I would love to know how you guys think that's going to end for him. Is he going to be, killed by, well, I don't know if Thrawn would do it. I mean, we've seen him, especially in this episode, this is the second time we've actually seen him do, anything action-based. The first time was, I think, the first half of the season when he snapped on that one guy and he freaked out, and then he was like, I'm sorry about that. That's the only other time we've had any sort of physical action from that character. So I'm kind of hard-pressed to even say that he'd be the one to do something like that physically, to actually take out Kallus in battle. But if there's ever a moment, it would be to take out the spy that's been giving rebels information. It would make a lot of sense for him to snap in that sort of situation. But we'll love to know how you guys think Kallus is going to get out of this, or just in general how it'll end, if he won't get out of it alive, if he will get out of it. We'd love to know how you think it'll play out. And of course, want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.